So firstly, welcome everybody to the Social Impact Marketing session. My name is Joanne Barrow, Head of Marketing here at Social Traders, and I'll be your host today. So thanks for joining us. It's going to be a rapid fire session with 4 amazing social enterprises: Brandkind Community, Homey Clothing, The Social Story, and Who Gives a Crap. We're going to have a panel discussion and then we'll have some time for Q&A later. But firstly, let's kick off. And I would pass it to the panelists to give a brief introduction of who you are and a bit about your social enterprise. So Irma, would you like to kick us off?
First off the cab rank. Right. Hi, everyone. Irma. Been working as a brand strategist for most of my life, 30 years now. So just to tell you a little bit about Brandkind, we actually call ourselves like a community of talent philanthropists. So we may not have the dollars of Paul Ramsey and Westpac, but we do have a lot of, generous people, branding professionals, communication specialists, marketing designers who actually give their time and talent through pro bono and low bono services to social enterprises like yourselves, because we just want to see you really succeed. So our belief is good brands deserve to succeed. We work with a lot of big corporates and we want to give this, the actual expertise and marketing news that we give to them to actually make you all, businesses as usual. We started during COVID. We had a few designer friends who were stood down. We ended up rebranding a couple of social enterprises during that time. And then we just made ourselves official early this year. And we are now a national community of about 80 branding specialists. And as we said, my dream is for people to be walking in their trolleys in Coles or Woolies with Who Gives a Crap, with Thank You, banking with Bank of Australia, and getting their coffee from street and wearing a hoodie from Jack. So that's our vision, is to really make social enterprises parts of our daily lives with strong brands.
Amazing. Thank you for that. Tiff, do you want to go next?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Tiff. I'm from The Social Story. So we're a social media agency for purpose-driven brands. So we work with social enterprises to actually communicate their impact and let their audiences know the good work that they're doing. But we also want to make sure that the approach that we have is as purposeful as possible. So that includes diversity, inclusion, accessibility, and trying to be as sustainable as possible through every piece of content.
Fantastic. Kat.
Hi, I'm Kat. I am brand marketing director at Who Gives a Crap. I've been with the brand for almost 3 years now, so seen a lot of growth in that time. But for those that don't know Who Gives a Crap, we're an eco toilet paper brand, and we donate 50% of our profits to provide clean water and toilets to the billions of people on Earth that don't have access. We have what we call our big, hairy, audacious goal, and we want to make sure that within our lifetime, everyone on Earth has access to a toilet and clean water. So we've got a lot more toilet paper to sell. So very excited to chat to you all today.
Amazing. And lucky last, we've got Jack.
Last and least, after hearing that, I think. Hey everyone, I'm Jack. I'm from Homey. We're a streetwear work integration social enterprise. We support young people affected by homelessness or hardship through education and employment programs. We do it because young people, sort of 12 to 24, make up the single biggest cohort of people affected by homelessness in Australia. On any given night, you're looking at conservatively 28,000 young people. So it's a pretty horrific number. It's a real hidden issue. And we're doing our part in our little corner of the world.
Great. Well, thank you for those introductions. We will get straight into it. And, we know that many social enterprises are keen to establish and grow their brands. And I would like to ask the panel, could each of you briefly share how you manage to gather insights to understand who to target and how best to reach your customers? So I might as well pass it to Kat. You go.
Sure. So we decided actually to partner with a comms planning agency to help us define our audience. We didn't have access to lots of expensive kind of data sources and planning tools. And so by partnering with an agency, which sometimes sounds like the expensive option, we were able to kind of access these great tools like Global Web Index. So what we did there was we dug into a bunch of traits So we looked at eco attitudes, we looked at early adopter and progressive mindsets, as well as things that appeal around our product. So, you know, statements like value great design or aesthetics and stuff like that. And with these different statements, and we built this pretty tight audience definition. And what that allowed us to then do was to dig into specific locations of focus to look at media consumption behaviors. And as our brand has just started to kind of branch out in terms of marketing channels and look at above the line, which is very expensive, having a really tightly defined audience has been really, really great for us, because it's meant that we can be much more selective in terms of where we're going to pinpoint location wise and the channels that we're going to use. So that's been how we've sort of thought about defining that audience and then using it.
Amazing. Irma, Tiff?
Oh, sorry, Tiff. I just go, now I know I've got another to my list of why I love Who Gives a Crap. They actually did target audience definition. It's one of the things that we espouse in Brandkind. Like, we'd run half-a-day workshops for these, but in 60 seconds, I need to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about Brandkind and how we target social enterprises, because then you'll know all our secrets. But what I want to talk about is the Bread and Butter Project, which is one of our long-standing clients. They're Australia's first social enterprise bakery. And when they came to us, they actually were targeting just wholesale bakeries. But what we did was help them really define, like, who is this end consumer that's actually going to be the advocate for your brand, you know? And what we did was similar to Kat's. Like, we also didn't have big resources. We talked to people, we talked to cafe owners, we did our own segmentation. And this is what I encourage people to do, is even if it's qualitative, hypothetical, we segmented people, because you go, well, everyone buys bread. Let's make everyone buy Bread and Butter Project. But they don't. Some people buy white bread and want just the price for a cheap bread. Some buy artisan bread, but they don't give a crap about the planet. Now, we then defined this target, who we ended up calling Foodies with a Purpose, which was clever 8 years ago, but I don't think it's quite naff now. But Foodies with a Purpose is what we defined them to be, because they're the ones who are going to buy our bread. They're going to advocate for us. They're going to be the ones carrying the tote and carrying those sourdoughs around and actually, really influencing all the others. And that's when people like Tiff, I suppose, get into the act and find these people who would actually be championing the brand. So that's what we did for them.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue, because with how we work with our clients and just social in general, it's about keeping that conversation going with your audience and actually listening to what they're talking about and how they're talking about it. We spend a lot of time in social listening and community management. So just like going through all the comments and scrolling a lot of TikTok, which I can now call my job, because it is about people who are already caring about a lot of these things, who are posting their own content, and how can you have a conversation with them that introduces them to your purpose and your product as well. And so actually spending time with your customers through social is such a unique tool that social gives over any other marketing platform, and gives you so much insight to develop content as well.
Great. And what about you, Jack?
Interestingly, we're kind of the opposite. Like, we are so not sophisticated when it comes to this stuff. I don't want to say it's all vibes, but it's not far off. We've been a really community-driven organization that's relied hugely on word of mouth and physical location, and it's let us build this really pretty amazing community. But we're in that position now where we are I guess a lot of people watching who are thinking, all right, we actually need to learn and get better at this stuff. So that's really where we're at in a lot of ways. It's interesting that we've had a degree of success coming from that place-based community, and now also looking to get a bit more switched on digitally.
Yeah, and I think, with most social enterprises, they're just starting out. So some of them might not have this sophistication, but as they grow, I'm sure they'll have that with them eventually. But so we know that social enterprise sector is a not-for-profit sector, and we don't always have the luxury of having those rich marketing tools, right? So I'm keen to hear from all of you, what are some of the free or low-cost tools you've used, and why should people use them? Who wants to kick off?
I'll do it. I'm coming from big clients who had mega million budgets. founding my own social enterprise was obviously a wake-up call. But look, for us, because we're a design company, the answer is one C word, Canva. If I had to choose, like, really, because we're a design agency, we're a branding agency. So I'm not saying, okay, go ahead, you can all start using Canva, but even our designers who use the sophisticated InDesign tools, etc., would actually then train our clients, our social enterprises, to actually how to use Canva and build their own templates so they're not reliant on us, because the resources are scarce. And also Canva, as we know, bless them, it's just so good on many levels. Like, they've actually provided us as well with a space to do our events and our own marketing. So they're actually an event space as well. And what I know is they actually also give free accounts to social enterprises if you qualify. So they're just an all-around supporter, I suppose, of the for-purpose space. So yeah, I love them.
Awesome. I might jump in.
Yeah.
I mean, I mentioned this in my last answer that, I think sometimes people hear agency and think, oh, that's going to be really expensive. But a lot of the time you do, can extract way more value rather than just looking at tools and things like that. What we found mentioning, the audience tools that were really expensive was that actually, like, getting onto like a lower cost sort of retainer with an agency, you don't just get access to maybe lots of data sources that you wouldn't have, but you also get the expertise that comes with this sort of external perspective of people solving lots of different challenges. Yeah. Like, I was at an agency before Who Gives a Crap, and the thing I missed the most is that knowledge sharing that happens across different challenges, different brands. And so I would just say that is really something to explore. And as you can see from the fabulous panel here, there's lots of different values aligned partners. It's not necessarily the world of these giant agencies with huge price tags. I do think as well, though, the one thing I always come back to is you don't have to overcomplicate things. Like, sometimes as marketers, we can think we need every tool, everything. But when I'm thinking about writing a sort of strategic or creative brief, you're looking for cultural kind of insights. You're looking for the conversations that are playing out. Tiff, you touched on this earlier, but don't underestimate like what conversations are happening on your social channels, what's happening in Reddit threads, TikToks, Twitter. Like, there are so many golden nuggets and things that can inspire you just happening right under your nose. And so I love to kind of have a good old search on what conversations are happening and then use that to kind of spark inspiration for campaigns and thoughts. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Tiff, any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Social in general is free. Like, we focus a lot on that organic storytelling piece because we know that that's not only, resourceful for a lot of small businesses and social enterprises who can't pay the monies for the big paid ads or TBCs and things like that, but also because that authentic storytelling is actually the best way to engage more meaningfully with your customers as well. And so everything we focus on is just organic and completely free on social. You just have to be quite strategic around it as well.
And your thoughts, Jack?
Pretty similar. Very, very open and transparent about the tools we use, which are, again, it's all the free stuff we can get our hands on. And that is tapping into stuff like Canva's not-for-profit program. Mundo will have a not-for-profit program. Google do it for their drive. So there's actually quite a lot of resources out there that you can start tapping into, even if you don't feel like you have the resources to go out and access those massive paid tools that, we all think would be nice to have. You can really hit the ground running quite quickly with what you can access for free.
Lovely. Now, Kat, Who Gives a Crap has no doubt done, a few marketing campaigns. And based on your experience, has there been a marketing campaign that didn't go as planned? And could you share what didn't go well and what you've learned from it?
Sure. Look, there are plenty of things that don't go well. I think it's all part of the process. We always talk about, we've got a Slack channel called Brilliant Fails, and we really just encourage like the fails. So that's definitely part of our culture. But I think one thing that springs to mind is this sort of deforestation report that we were really excited about launching to the world. As a category, we're all using the statistic that 27,000 trees a day are cut down to make traditional toilet paper. And that source was removed from the internet, and we were all very panicked about not being able to use that anymore. Did a piece of research with an amazing environmental consultancy called Edge, re-looked at that statistic and found out that it was over 1 million trees a day that were cut down to make traditional toilet paper. And, you know, we were shocked and we were like, oh, have we got the big PR scoop, the big social moment? Everyone is going to be so outraged. We launched it, got a little bit of traction, but let's just tell you now, it was not the big global outrage, big PR buzz moment that we thought it was going to be. And it was just a really good moment to be like, just because we are outraged about this, we're thinking about this, we're talking about this, we're in this echo chamber, it doesn't mean that everyone else will be. People are being bombarded with statistics, with different things to be worried about that's competing for their attention all the time. And I think it was a bit naive of us to think that this was going to be the one thing on top of all of the other climate statistics or all of the other things that are happening in the world that's competing for their attention. And so what that meant for us and how we sort of think about campaigns as we're planning, because we are trying to tell, and you know, this would be for kind of other social enterprises, we are trying to tell really important and sometimes quite heavy stories. And people are either feel like they've got quite a full mental load and things to worry about, and sometimes they just want levity and they want an escape, and they want that entertainment. And so we're always trying to find those ways in of like looking at what people are talking about in culture and intersecting it with the story that we want to tell in our comms. And so just last month, we were sort of looking again at like, how do we find different ways to kind of keep telling people this sort of story? We have a really big kind of education piece to do. Deforestation feels like quite a niche climate issue. It's not the same as single-use plastic. It's not something that people really think that they can change on a personal level. And so at the time when we were planning the campaign, there was something happening in culture where lots of books, like modern, like old classics, were being rewritten and modified to be relevant for current times. So, you know, there was a lot of outrage about the Roald Dahl books and things like that. And so what we did last month was we re-released A.A. Milne's Winnie the Pooh book, which is in the public domain now in the US. We re-released that book, the deforested edition. So we were bold. We removed the trees from the 100-acre wood.
Wow.
If people were not talking about deforestation before, people really started talking about it then. So we got over 400 pieces of global press coverage. You know, we got 5 billion reach, thousands of brand mentions. And for us, we always talk about the power of earned media. We always talk about we haven't got the same budgets that our competitors have, like Kimberly-Clark's of this world. So we have to punch above our weight. So we really put the emphasis on driving earned media. And so it was really interesting to go, how do you take like this statistic, which is very close to our hearts, this thing that's happening in culture and people are talking about anyway, and sort of bring those two together. Now, sure, we did absolutely get some people a little bit upset. It was a childhood classic. It packed that emotional punch, but actually when you are able to connect emotionally, that's when you're going to be able to get people's attention and actually get people talking. So absolutely, if I can give one piece of advice, start from a place that people don't care. And it's really hard when we care so deeply. But if you can do that and get comfy with that thought, it will help you sort of find unique ways in to sort of grab attention.
That was an amazing story and reflection. So thank you for sharing. And there's a lot of, you know, words of wisdom in that, which I'm sure we can all draw from. And you touched about storytelling, which is a good segue into another question that I had. And, you know, Irma and Tiff, in marketing, storytelling plays an important role.
Right.
And I'm curious to know, from your perspective, how have you used storytelling to create impact and build connections with a brand?
Oh, geez, right. Like, well, I just wanted to touch on, like, Kat, I love your story because who gives a crap was kind of the headline of your story, right? I meant like what it actually means. Look, in our world, that's exactly what we're starting from. Like, you assume that why would people? I was talking.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry. I was just going to say that, look, who gives a crap is the starting point for us, in a sense that why would the audience really care? Because as you say, we live our brands 24/7. They don't think about us 24/7. So the example I wanted to share, look, I was so torn because this is a great brand I'm working on right now. And I saw one of my clients, Kurt from Exceptional there, but I didn't get the go ahead to share the story yet. So I'll talk about Auntie's Ginger Tonic. I'm not sure if you can see it. It's actually one of our founding social enterprises brands. It is a tonic drink. It was founded by a refugee from Sierra Leone who came here when she was 8 years old from the Civil War and wanted to, build her business. And she was told that she would never succeed given her color, her race, and her background. And guess what I'm trying to say here is like, how many drinks are out there? You walk in a Coles and a Woolies. Why would you pick this drink? So for us, the big storytelling ethos is talk to the heart and the mind. First, the mind is you need your consumer to part with that $5. Why are they not going to pick out a Tom and, Emma and Tom's or a Parker Juice and stuff? You need to tell them that your product will actually deliver. So whether you're a service brand or you're a product brand, you need to tick the functional things and say that story for us in this case was it is a recipe that was actually her grandmother's. And this is from West Africa with a vibrancy. You feel alive, but you actually are using the Australian goodness. So our story is it's a wellness drink. It's got 5 ingredients. So that's sticking the mind thing. And you go, okay, I know my taste buds are going to feel good. But the heart end of it is that you are actually bringing her culture into this. And then when she talks about how she's now empowered as a refugee today, and then the story we have is her grandma actually lived to 116. So when we go to the markets, people would go, oh, but if I only live till 97, are you going to give me my money back? So I know it's a bit, cheeky and stuff, but the thing is you need to find that hook, that distinctiveness, because then people remember it as the recipe from Sierra Leone from a grandmother who lived till forever, and I am helping a refugee actually, establish her own enterprise in Australia. So keeping it tight, making it distinctive, and talking to the heart and mind, I think are my 2 big takeaways for storytelling.
And Tiff, any words of wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, storytelling's in our name, so that's definitely a focus of us, particularly with social when you are, a lot more consistent with your communication than, say, a TVC. Like, you do need to be recognizing the fact that people on social see so much content. So if they're seeing like 50 posts from you just about selling your product, they're going to switch off. What they want to be seeing is content that can actually inform them and inspire them and go beyond your product and tell your wider story. So we work with, say, a recycling program for sports shoes called Tread Lightly. And yes, we can keep saying there's 800 collection points everywhere, but instead a lot of our socials is actually about, okay, how do you wear out your shoes enough to the point you need to recycle them? Or, what are other ways to actually think about sustainability in sports and things like that, because it gives them a reason to not just interact with the one post they may see that has that key product message, but actually follow you and follow your journey. And so broadening out the scale of, just those commercial objectives of selling a product or a service, and thinking about the wider way that your brand actually fits into the lives of your audience is what we focus on social.
Fantastic. Good tips there. Thank you for sharing. And Jack, I haven't forgotten you. Now, Homey Clothing has done some fantastic collaborations and partnerships, which is a great way to reach a wide audience and create bigger marketing impact. So could you share with us an example of how you have established a partnership, the steps that you took in making it happen, and some of the outcomes that you achieved from it?
Yeah, for sure. Partnerships are honestly probably, I'd say, our best thing. And we've definitely got some with people who are in the room right now. I know just earlier this year, for example, we made a bunch of merch for Who Gives a Crap. And we were talking about Canva before. Similarly, we've done stuff with them. They're about to host a big event of ours. So it's just about tapping into these organizations and partners and friends where we can and where there's a strength. I think probably the biggest and best example I can give of Homey's success in this space is the work we've done with Champion and its parent company, Hanes Australasia. It would have been, probably 4 years ago now that we've kicked things off. And initially it was just going to be a bit of a, let's see if we can help. Let's have a chat. Maybe we can do something. Just one of those funny little interactions you have at a meeting. Just, again, like a lot of this. And someone's like, oh yeah, we can, let's see, who knows? And over time, we've just really we've kept that conversation going, and we've built on it time after time after time. It's a point now where we've got touch points at honestly all levels of our organization. They offer employment placements for young people in our major education and employment program. They've connected us to their clothing manufacturer overseas. We do all sorts of stuff with them. Our Hoodies for Homelessness campaign, a big awareness campaign that we run every year, they've started now matching donations for that. So every hoodie that's bought, every homie hoodie that's bought, Champion will donate an extra one to a young person affected by homelessness. So earlier this year, they donated 3,000 hoodies. They use Homie to create a whole bunch of their creative content, their video content for advertising campaigns they do, they do with other partners of theirs, Queer Sporting Alliance, for example. So it's really just suddenly all of these touch points all through the organizations. It's just these really sticky, layered partnerships where we're actually quite embedded now. And it's been, it's been a process, but it's also one of those things where it's been very thoughtful, very considered from both sides, where we're always sort of going, like, all right, is this actually good for us, or are we just doing it because it's Champion and it's a big company and we're like, oh shit, how cool is this? They know who we are. Just remembering like what we're here to do and making sure that the partnership is equally weighted and really supports both of us. When I've just said we've got a minute, so let's just call it there.